hit a separate button. So no wonder. Anyway, I'm gonna go back just a little bit to welcome everybody from Rumble channel that just came on, since I had forgot to hit the go live button. So I have to hit it in two places now that I'm going live on the Rumble Studio. So pretty sad that is a manual process, but I missed that twice. But anyway, just want to let you guys know, welcome to the show. And we're going to be going over quite a few things here. We're going to be going over previews are over. Showtime. Master plan is being completely clear now. And then the word and worship as well is going to be where we are worshiping on a different channel. Remember, it's the word and worship channel. That's separate from this channel, right? So if you want to join us after this new show, you'll have to go there. We'll go down a rabbit hole all well with Digital Soldier. You're going to enjoy that. So let's dig into the news. Thank you, Di, for letting me know that. I saw that text, and I know you were trying to get me with text with having to interrupt, but we really appreciate you letting me know. I wanted to start out, guys, with the fact that Trump put a 50% tariff. That's 50% on India, mainly because they are buying oil from Russia, and that's going to help Russia's economy, or help the war machine go, and the sanctions really won't matter that much. So now Trump's pushing India to stop buying oil from Russia, and that brings Russia to the table, and then the globalist cabal, who's losing people and money, and Trump's making him buy all the weapons they give him now. What a great strategy there, too. You want to go fight a war? I'm not giving you any of my money anymore, so you buy the stuff from me, which has the same effect because they don't want to pay for it, right? They want U.S. to pay for everything, and Trump says no. But even though Modi and Trump got along at certain times, he's really using his tariffs in a brilliant way to affect foreign policy. And we're seeing great success in that. And it's brought Putin to the table. Says my special envoy, Steve Witkoff, just had a highly productive meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Great progress was made. Afterwards, I updated some of our European allies. Everyone agrees this war must come to an end. And we will work towards that in the days and weeks to come. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So you really have these two factions. You have this globalist cabal of the Westerners, right? NATO and everything else. Trump has to act like he's part of and is actually bringing them to kneel. And then you have Putin, who gets out of control. And so he's now bringing them both together. So I believe that this, even though there's a bigger narrative of Putin and Xi and Trump working together against the globalist cabal, it's also, remember that the CCP is part of the globalist cabal. So she might be trying to fight that with Trump and what people call the global alliance, etc. But we still have a lot at play, and I believe the Lord has anointed Trump to give him power and authority to orchestrate where the Lord wants to go with some of these things. And I believe it's part of this is getting his people to rise, because like never before, people are in the Trump universe and in the coming administration that have that love the Lord and have Christian backgrounds like never before. People that are really fighting the spiritual battle and understand the spiritual battle that we're in. That is a great place. I need to also go over here to show you my screen. Look like I was talking without the screen. Trump intends to meet with Putin and Zelensky. That's a great. Here you see that not only the envoy was good, but that now he's going to meet with the two big boys and try to get this, use that leverage that he has with the tariffs. And that is fantastic that's happening. Breaking: FBI squeezing supervisory intel analyst Brian Auten now on paid suspension to cooperate in conspiracy probe. Auten, who worked mid-year Crossfire, FISA, Hunter laptop, Mar-a-Lago, and ICA, knows where the bodies are buried at the Hoover building, a source says. So this is good news stuff, guys, that we see true investigations, criminal investigations going on. I believe it's going to end up in military tribunals because of what will be coming after it to show that this is absolute treason. When it ends up all the way to the Epstein, right? All the way to the 2020 stolen election, all the way to the selection machines. This is going to be an amazing 6 months. I really believe you're going to see 6 months. That is everything we were wishing for back in 2017 or 2018, right? And here's a 7-year delta It says, comfy, previews are over, showtime. And this is a Q drop 1827. That's coming up here August 9th, 2018, but that is tomorrow. I mean, well, the 9th, what is that? Today's the 6th, so that would be this weekend. That it says, comfy, previews are over. Anonymous posted this picture of a bunch of people eating popcorn, including Spider-Man in there. You see, kind of a dark picture, but it shows enjoying every second of it. And that's where Q said, comfy with your popcorn, right? Previews are over, showtime. And again, it doesn't mean this doesn't have real world consequences. We all see that. So, and I see where you did that, Dan. Remember that time exactly 7 years ago, August 18th, 2018, when Q posted a popcorn video under Q 1827. Comfy, previews are over, showtime. Well, guess what? August 9th, 2025 falls on a Saturday. Sound familiar? Because back in October 31st, 2017, in Q16, Q told us, get the popcorn. Friday and Saturday will deliver the MAGA promise. And remember, Dan, and we are locked in. So expect some fireworks this weekend, I guess. This is the post he's talking about here, where you see an Anon eating popcorn with a Pepe the Frog and Trump, right? And there's that picture of the popcorn, and there's actually a little video here of that same video. And get the popcorn. Friday and Saturday, we deliver the MAGA promise. POTUS knows he must clean house in order to free up and demonstrate who's in authority in order to pass important legislation. So, pretty great post by Digital Soldier, and we're going to go in a lot more detail in what this master plan may be and what their master plan was to just basically take us over, make us transhumans, back to the Nephilim and AI and the whole mess. We'll be looking at that. Now look at this. Director of National Intelligence. This is Donald Trump putting this out on his truth and quoting Tulsi. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Obama directed that the National Security Council meeting be called. They were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence in the election. Not if, but how. They knowingly wrote things in the assessment that were false. If you know anything about Cube and follow me, he always talks about knowingly. That creates the treason, right? If you knowingly are doing this thing, it is pretty crazy. Yeah. Sorry for being late there, Herchowitz. I forgot to hit I have 2 steps I have to take now to get this running on Rumble Studio, but we're using Rumble Studio now. I'm going to become one of their creators. I'm excited about getting into that creator program of Rumble. So that's and unfortunately, it's an extra manual step I need to make sure is on my checklist now. Listen to this though. This is just awesome stuff, and it's not a very high quality video, but the audio is awesome. So let's listen.
So you were playing those clips of these people like Morning Joe seemingly befuddled, saying that by no account is any of this true. I would challenge them to see if they've actually read the documents, every single page of the documents that we've released over the last couple of weeks. If not, go to odni.gov, It's all right there for anyone to see. And those who go in and read this will see how President Obama directed that a National Security Council meeting be called to talk about Russia, that the report that came out of that meeting was filled with tasks that were delivered by James Clapper's assistant to John Brennan and to other elements of the intelligence community. John Brennan was the head of the CIA at the time, all saying per the president's direction, per the president's order. And very specifically, they were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence the election, not if, but how. And this was the beginning of this manufactured intelligence assessment where they knowingly wrote things in this assessment that were false, and they knew they were false. They knew that they were basing it on discredited intelligence or documents like the Steele dossier that was politically motivated and that they knew was false. And this was how they came up with the Russia hoax that was then weaponized and used to try to delegitimize the president, President Trump, and to try to ultimately enact this years-long coup throughout his entire 4 years of his first administration.
It's interesting how I think it's a part of the strategy that we're starting to see unfold is that she's just talking about a year when we know this is all going all the way till now, right? So again, they started Crossfire Hurricane in 2015, and they talk about how the intelligence assessment came in December of 2016, right? And then she's talking about a year-long conspiracy. So she's taking this from the conspiracy theory happening all the way to when Q started, right? So it's just like that she's trying to establish that they knowingly did all this spying on Trump, trying to take his campaign down, etc., for this year. Then they're going to move into how they moved it into the Robert Mueller hoax, and then they moved it into impeachment 1, then they moved it into impeachment 2, then they moved it into the big boy, and that is using the selection machines to and COVID and all the mail-in ballots to steal the 2020 election and then do the cover-up of it with a false flag on January 6th. That's the next phase we're getting into. And then it's going to lead, I believe, to Epstein as phase 3. If I had to take this into 3 phases, again, phase 1 is what she's talking about, this 1-year conspiracy, how it all started, how all these criminals are there. And yes, this is the plan's becoming very clear. And we're going to get more details about that, looking at more from a spiritual perspective, more from even going down a rabbit hole of Nephilim and what's all that about. We'll see as we go. But here's Praying Medic on his take on it. He says, would one think it's a coincidence that Trump neutered the law firms that represent Spygate conspirators while removing the security clearances of said conspirators before releasing the information that leads to their prosecution? So, woo! Or maybe conspirators, maybe that's the way that. But you can see what's happened. He strategically, with executive orders, made the law firms bow, basically saying we're going to take you down for treason, and they had to give money, they had to give free services to Trump, basically, so they can't now represent these people, these conspirators. So the Comeys, where are they going to go? They're Perkins Coie, the law firm that was funneling all the information and even money through a bunch of places to get to for instance, Christopher Steele to pay for the dossier, right? Bought and paid for fake information was through these law firms that he put at bay. So you can see this is all strategic. This is all strategic, and we're seeing the master plan come right before us. Quite exciting. All right, we're going to get into a bunch of other stuff now and then get into the rabbit hole in a bit. Politically embattled Senator crying Chuck Schumer wants the Republican Party to pay an extortion $2 billion in order for radical left Democrats to approve the hundreds of Trump appointees who have been waiting for months and are raring to go. This has never happened before. There has never in the U.S. history been such a day. They are extortionists. Republicans must create legislation in order to get out of the grasp of these country-hating thugs. Move quickly, MAGA. So they're going to basically instead just get new legislation, which I believe is going to be all around not being able to delay these appointees so much. And the president's going to have a right to do recess appointments while he's waiting if things take so long. Something like that. I believe that's what the wording of what he's talking about is, create legislation. I think that's what Trump is saying there. Here's Trump truth as well. I am proud to be the only president, with possibly the exception of the late George Washington, to donate my salary. My first paycheck went to the White House Historical Association, and we make much needed reservations to the beautiful People's House. Great improvements and beautification is taking place at the White House at levels not seen since its original creation. Make America great again. How can everybody hate this man? It's because of the enemy of the people. It's the globalist cabal control over the media and the 7 mountains of influence, all the influencers in all those areas that are bought and paid for.
Did you guys hear what Oklahoma just did? They're now the first state in the country to roll out an America First certification test, and it's specifically for teachers coming from states like California and New York. Yes, if you're a teacher moving to Oklahoma from a blue state, you're going to need to pass this test before you can teach. Covers a lot of things like American history, civics, the Constitution, and yes, basic biology. The idea is simple. If you're going to teach kids in Oklahoma, you need to understand and support the values that built this country. And no, it's not about party politics. It's about truth, responsibility, and respect for this nation's foundations. Oklahoma Education Chief Ryan Walters said they're not going to let radical agendas sneak into the classroom. They're partnering with groups like PragerU to make sure teachers are well versed in what they call common sense civics. And honestly, they're saying a lot of people are applauding this, and I can see why, because it's common sense. Because if you're leaving a state where the educational system is crumbling, maybe it makes sense to check if your teaching lines up with the values of a new place you're moving to. This isn't about banning people. This is about raising the bar. But let's be real quick. Would you want your kids learning from someone who doesn't believe in the basics? Oklahoma just drew a line in the sand, and I'm so hoping that all the other states will follow. So here's the real question. Do you think this will start a trend? I sure hope so.
I think so. Yes. All right, look at this. When you look at the blue states, some with 0 Republican representatives in Congress, you know that all the whining from the Texas legislature Democrats is just pure hypocrisy. They should be grateful we are only adding 5 seats when we could add 9. And so you look at this, and this is a video that he's responding to. I'm going to actually go to the next slide because I think that's it. So this whole article is all about the Democrats just going crazy. So this one gal, Maura Healey, threatens to gerrymander Massachusetts, but the problem is they already have all the seats. It's like, what are you talking about? She said, I'm forced to actually do gerrymandering in my state. And it's like, we already have 9 of the 9 seats. How can you make it even worse for the Republicans? It's like you've already gerrymandered everything, silly. It's like, how stupid can you be? This is why when you see this video here of Joe
if you look at the map, right?
I'm sorry, this is the CNN.
You have some exceptions like Illinois. There's blatant Democratic gerrymandering. But most of the worst offenders when it comes to gerrymandering are Republican states, such as Texas.
Absolute lie. Absolute lie. Jake Tapper, you should be so ashamed of yourself. So ashamed of yourself. Look at this. This guy responds, wrong. Red states got nothing on the blue states gerrymandering. Here's California. 40% of the people vote red. Even with it's really probably 60%. But what do they have? They have 9 of the 52 states. 9 of the 52 seats. 9. Okay? Massachusetts, 35% of the statewide vote. 0 out of 9 seats. Here's Connecticut, 38% of the statewide vote. 0% of the seats. 0 out of 15. So you see, California, it's like 17% of the seats we have, even though we have 40% of the vote. So we're not being represented, as you can see, because when they take over the election systems, they can gerrymander. And so if you look at the way they've mapped out the new Texas map, it's not gerrymandering. It's actually reversing gerrymandering of the way it was. In my opinion, if you go look back, because they were doing it kind of like by majority, by race, a lot of the way they did the districts, and it was kind of wild. This is pretty logical of what they're doing in Texas. Here's New York. 42% of the statewide vote, but only 26.9% of the seats. 7 out of 26. New Jersey, red is 43. Bigger for you on mobile. The Maryland, 38% of the statewide vote. 12% of the seats, 1 out of 8. And here you have New Mexico, 44% of the statewide vote. 0% of the seats. And here you got Hawaii, 30% of the statewide vote. 0% of the seats. 0 out of 2. Oregon, 42% of the statewide vote, 16% of the seats, 1 out of 6. Washington, 38% of the statewide vote, 20% of the seats, 2 out of 10. Rhode Island, 38% of the statewide vote, 0 seats, 0 out of 2. So you can see saying that what Texas is doing is some type of criminal thing against the race, being a bunch of racists trying to do this is just basically reversing some silly way they've done it into one that makes more sense. Yes, it's going to be advantage to the Republican Party, mainly because so many more Hispanics have started voting for Trump. That's what's really caused this change. And the way they had done it before, it really allowed certain races to have way bigger percentages than that, and it kind of screwed the Hispanics and their new voice in the Republican Party. So that's interesting. Trump threatens to take over D.C. after Big Balls lives up to his name. So excuse but that was what he was called. You remember in the Doge, and he looked familiar a little bit when I showed this yesterday. But that guy that got beat up in right here, that got beat up in Washington D.C., that was the young kid that was doing the Doge cuts in Washington D.C. And this is where Trump is threatening to take over. And but that was real interesting. So here's Elon Musk talking about that. A few days ago, a gang of about a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in her car at night in D.C. A Doge team member saw that was happening, ran to defend her, and was severely beaten to the point of concussion. But it saved her. It is time to federalize D.C. So you can see here, even though they played the optics game, Elon did, of always being not on the same page, here you see Elon Musk talking about federalizing D.C., similar to what Trump says in here about federalizing D.C. That's coming, guys. I believe that's coming, taking that land away from the globalist cabal that have made it to be part of this unholy trinity, right, between London and the Vatican and D.C. being these. They're not even part of those countries. They're basically these international territories of the unholy trinity. Here's Blaze Media talking about the Republican senator launches gubernatorial campaign in the deep red state. I'm ready to deliver. Yes, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee has officially launched her campaign for governor of the volunteer state. The current governor is not going to be rerunning, so she'll be running against another Republican. So it'll be interesting to see if Trump ends up supporting her. But again, it's good to see a lot of these MAGA people start to run for bigger positions. Shooting at the Georgia's Fort Stewart injures 5 soldiers, Army sergeant in custody. So this is interesting. So one of the soldiers basically shot other soldiers is what it looks like. We'll have more on this tomorrow after we get in more detail on what exactly happened there. Here's Howard Stern show set to be canceled after major financial losses. Boy, is that nice. One of the most dirty-mouthed liberal thinkers tried to get everybody to take the COVID shot, told everybody that they should die if they don't take it, shouldn't have health care. This is really nice. He's making $100 million a year. $100 million, not $10 million, not $1 million. $100 million a year. And I don't know why Sirius XM would pay him that much money. Obviously, he was getting, and now it's lost a lot of its crowd. They don't think that they're going to be able to renegotiate a lower salary for him, so they're just cutting it. And so a new case of go woke, go broke. Howard Stern's going to be canceled in Sirius XM when his contract ends. In recent years, Stern said he hates Trump voters and that he thinks we're stupid and that he would deny unvaccinated people hospital care if it was up to him. Right? So this is a very big cabal puppet used to separate us all. And it's nice to see Howard Stern go. Trump admin bars visas from men competing in women's sports. So this is kind of cool. So not only is it saying that, hey, not only, so I'm trying to get rid of all these things. There you go. Trump admin bars visas. So this not only says, hey, men can't be in women's sports. We're not going to support schools that try to do that, et cetera, et cetera. This now says people come from overseas. You're not going to get a visa, which means the Olympics that are coming here next year, also will not have transgenders in the women's sports, which is a great step, don't you think? This is interesting. So I'm starting to put out a bunch of shorts. So I'm on TikTok, mostly with the Blessed to Teach, blessed with the number 2 teach. I'm on YouTube. I've lost 4 channels over there, but I created other ones. Also on Facebook, other places, and I'm even starting to put it on the Rumble channel. And they're little shorts from people on Faith and Freedom TV. So let's just, here's an example of the resistance chicks.
Because they would say that in France, like you just told everybody, like I was shocked to be on top of this mountain looking over this beautiful view and have this couple literally say, oh, we're French. talking about a 40-year-old teacher and a 15-year-old boy. Like, so you're all pedophiles? Like, you're all child predators? Like, what do you mean, oh, we're French? Like, I get it if you're like, oh, so she had an affair. Oh, we're French.
Oh,
Like,
she dressed provocatively.
She
or-
went around
yeah.
naked. Oh, we're French. But
Which they do say that, by the
Do
way.
you draw the line? Where's the line that you draw? And I guess the legal age in France is 15.
Right.
And that's where they draw the line. Like, but she was his student before.
She was his teacher.
She was his teacher when he was 14.
Yeah.
Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today.
All right, so you can see what I'm doing there is follow me on those other platforms, the bigger platforms at Instagram, etc., where they've censored me massively. We're now pushing out all this great content from that was Resistance Chicks and Kent Henry and Lance Wallnow, all those people. And so make sure you follow us on those other platforms. But again, the easiest thing to do is go to faithandfreedom.tv. That's the web app. And it has a link to how to download it on your Roku TV or your Fire TV or your phones. All right, here's an IDF soldier prays on his way to a mission. Pray for the IDF soldiers. So this is interesting. This is a account that is pro-IDF in Israel. As you know, they are under massive scrutiny. It's pretty crazy how much food has actually gone into Gaza compared to almost all other wars and countries. If you go do research on that, it's a really sad state of affairs how anti-Israel the world has become, based upon the source documents that I always point out. If you go back to the source documents of the Khazarian Jew theory, they don't hold up. They were fake. The whole thing about the king. Now here's the sad part of what's happening in Europe and just in the West in general. It's a meme that's really it says this is reality in Europe. So you see all these white women lining up waiting for abortions. When the maternity wards are all basically the Islam and the non-white people, right? That's the scary part. That's we've liberalized much of the West, and that liberalization has taught people to go get abortions, and we're not having kids. And then you have all the especially the Islam oriented people all having kids, and that is a dangerous thing that we need to turn around. It shows that's part of the strategy of separating us and destroying us. Here's Dan Scavino says, imagine patriotically and proudly serving the first Trump White House for 4 years and departing in January 2021. Then during the 4 years you're out, Biden lawfare kicks in, and you receive below email 5 weeks before re-entering the White House again in January. And here's the email. He got an email from Google. It says, Google received and responded to a legal process issued by Federal Bureau of Investigations compelling the release of information related to your Google account. So you mentioned that. So that could be your Gmail, it could be all your Google Drive stuff, all that type of stuff. A court order previously prohibited Google from notifying you of the legal process. So now they tell them after the fact. I've never shared this, but this is a small taste of the insanity that many of us went through right here in the United States of America. Lawfare at its finest, a complete and total disgrace. And he had a picture of I guess he just put the text of the letter. And Kash Patel replied to that and said, I got one of those too. So they did it to Kash, they did it to everybody that was close to Trump. The spying did not stop. It continued all the way. That's the point. That's why we're going to go into these different phases. Totally focusing on the first year of the conspiracy, right? And Ezra Cohen saying, why didn't Google fight these unlawful subpoenas that targeted many Trump officials? They enthusiastically complied. Shouldn't they face consequences? Yes, they should, of course. So Google's going down. They're a big part of this whole conspiracy. And Eric Schmidt and the whole way they've done it. I know I'm on YouTube right now. They're probably going to take me out for this. I just decided to go on my smaller account. It's only got like 3,000 followers on YouTube. I'm live. There's several people watching right now. But it's interesting that Google is one of the most evil companies that ever existed when it comes to censorship and trying to destroy America. They want they're part of the global cabal puppets, right? There's no question about that. All right. here is this digital soldier. Patriots in control, God wins. And he's created this Jarvis digital soldier using some AI. So he's using AI for good, trying to show what the Q drops say and how you're fighting for freedom, etc. But he understands the dangers of AI and what their plan was. And that's what this whole thread is all about right here, that I'm going to spend the rest of the time on here. And we'll probably might not be able to get through this. We're going to get 6:15, and I know in about 40 minutes, 40 minutes, we're going over to do praise and prayer on the other channel. By the way, Word and Worship, Word with the N Worship. But you guys will enjoy this deep dive rabbit hole here where we get into the Great Awakening, the multidimensional war they hid in plain sight to enslave your soul. How CERN, the Vatican, the Anunnaki, and the AI gods expose the soul trap hiding behind science. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's Ephesians 6:12. What if everything you knew was a trap? What if I told you the world ended a long time ago? What if CERN didn't just open a portal, but let something in? What if the Mandela effect isn't a joke? What if fictional multiverses aren't fiction? What if your entire reality is a trap built by the same gods who ruled over ancient summer? Sound insane? Good. That means you're finally asking the right questions. The truth isn't hidden anymore. It's buried under 1,000 layers of predictive programming, false science, and inverted spiritual warfare. And now, in 2025, those layers are collapsing. He's got a little 2-minute video here that just talks about everything.
For a great
we're not going to go over that right now based on time. But if you look at this, I just want to answer some people are asking, what's the Mandela effect? That's an effect when you basically think about something that was in a different year and you're 100% sure, and it's now you go back and you read about it in the history book and it's different than what you for sure remember, right? And he's saying that maybe that's really did change is what he's going after there. Okay, so now it's the 7-year delta. We talked about this August 9th, 2018. Comfy, previews are over. Showtime. And here you say 7-year delta, August 19th. And it's, here's a little 9-second video. Let's watch. That's that funny commercial with the guy in popcorn, and Dan's Cavino had put this little gif of a guy eating popcorn. So we were just pointing back to Q saying it all the time. Get your popcorn because you're going to be watching this, right? But he also wanted us to be very active, and most people that ever woke up with Q are very, very awake on this. And so this is the multidimensional wars where we are right now. See if I went to a different part of the thread. Here we go. What you're about to read isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a battlefield briefing, and I'm about to walk you through the real war that's taking place. A war for your consciousness, a war for your memories, a war for your soul. By the time you're finished this post, you'll never look at science, AI, or even the world itself in the same way. And for those who always wondered what the connection between the Word of God and the words of Q, or how do the scriptures line up with the Q drops, you're about to find out. So get ready, friends. We're going deep into the rabbit hole. Now's a good time to grab a cup of coffee and comfy, and let's connect some serious dots. This is the Great Awakening, and it's time we rip the veil wide open. Knowledge is power. Think for yourself. Trust yourself. Do due diligence. You awake and thinking for yourself. It's the greatest fear. Sheep no more. The Great Awakening. And there's a meme right here by Spiritual SF17. There's a lot of memes. And it has down the rabbit hole. And this is a picture of Pepe the Frog with a sword, kind of being a ninja turtle as well as a Pepe the Frog. Where we go one, we go all down the rabbit hole. All right, and then there's another picture here. It says, the Great Awakening, prepare your minds. It is time. has a picture of Trump pointing for those of you on audio. And that's a couple of memes. And it says, the spell called science. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. That's Ephesians 6:11. They told you it was harmless. They told you it was just particle physics. They told you CERN was looking for dark matter, Higgs bosons, and tiny ministries and cosmos. They told you it was science. But what if it was a spell? What if it was all a cover? You were told that ancient mythologies, modern science, and today's tech revolution were separate categories. You were told the Anunnaki were just stories. You were told CERN was just physics. You were told Vatican was just religion. You were told AI was just an innovation. You were told fiction was fiction, and memory glitches were just your imagination. They taught you to laugh off the supernatural. They trained you to ignore symbols. They conditioned you to worship experts. They programmed you to mock anyone who dared to connect the dots. What if it was all connected from the beginning? What if the real purpose of CERN was never about particles, but about piercing dimensions? What if the latest Superman movie, The Pocket Universe, wasn't Hollywood fiction, but a blueprint for things to come? What if the Anunnaki never left? They just traded ziggurats for boardrooms, rebranding as technocrat gods like Logos, like CERN, DARPA, and the World Economic Forum. What if CERN is the modern Tower of Babel? What if the Vatican is guarding the gateway between worlds? What if AI is the vessel to finish what the gods of old started? This isn't science fiction. This isn't mythology. This is dimensional warfare disguised as modern progress. They didn't discover these technologies. They excavated them. They resurrected them. And they have been hidden. And they have been hiding a timeline spanning Soul Trap right under your nose, using rituals, symbols, physics, and code to pull it off. And now in 2025, the veil is finally lifting. Welcome to the real story behind Pocket Universe, the controlled black hole, and the war for your dimension. This is a multi-dimensional information warfare. Here's another cue. I'm trying to see what verse this is. It says, be strong in the Lord. Pray for strength. Pray for guidance. Pray for America. Put the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Q. That's got part of Ephesians 6, 10 and 11 in there. Here you have now some memes here. So Q was quoting some Bible verses, it looks like there. Although it's pieces of the Bible verses. Be strong in the Lord is the first part of Ephesians 6:10, I know. And this against the devil's schemes is the end of 10 and 11. So it's a little bit different. It's a quote by Q. But here you go. Here's a 31-second video. Let's look at it.
Down to the start of run 3, the moment when the experiments are going to switch on for the first time and be able to record collisions from the Large Hadron Collider at the center of their detectors at the record energy, unprecedented energy of 13.6 trillion electron volt. This is going to happen in 8 seconds from now.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Being unstable.
And there we are. Run 3 has officially started. Down to.
So they're celebrating CERN. So this is all the stuff that's going on with CERN. What are they trying to bring through? That's the big question. This gets into who are they, the Anunnaki. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. That's Genesis 6:4. Before CERN, before Babylon, before Egypt, there were the ancient Sumerians. They weren't primitive. They weren't instructed. They were the first known civilized and wrote in cuneiform. They mapped the stars and built ziggurats aligned with celestial gates. They worshiped the Anunnaki, those who came from the heavens to the earth. According to the records, the Anunnaki descended in a fiery chariot and engineered early humans through genetic manipulation and installed kingships and priesthoods while ruling from the shadows. A lot of this stuff is out of the book of Enoch, and I think he's going into other stuff as well. So not necessarily saying this is true. This is where he's going, trying to link the Bible with Q, with a lot of these older theories about where all this evil came from. They came to take control. Many believe from the Nibiru, a rogue planet that said to pass the Earth nearly every 3,600 years. When they came to rule. The legends call them gods. The evidence calls them tyrants. They were overlords, sorcerers, DNA tinkerers, soul farmers. They enslaved mankind through hierarchy, deception, and fear. They demanded loyalty through blood rituals and idol worship. They introduced counterfeit systems of power, kingship to preserve bloodlines, mystery schools to observe truth, pharmakia to dull consciousness, hybrid breeding programs to corrupt the human genome. They didn't bring order, they hijacked it. Every gift was a trap. Every blessing was a leash. Kings instead of shepherds. Fear instead of love. Knowledge without wisdom. Their legacy? Babylonian systems. Nephilim bloodlines. Priests, kings cloaked in divinity but fueled by domination. Everything they established still runs the world to this very day. Black cube worship, ritual sacrifice, mystery religions, Vatican vaults, occult symbols embedded in the architecture of CERN, Washington, D.C., and the United Nations. We talked a little bit about that, didn't we? The gods of the nations are idols. Psalm 96:5. You can't serve both God and mammon. Matthew 6:24. They traded temples for towers, ziggurats for boardrooms, altars for algorithms, pyramids for Pentagon contracts. Their bloodline is intact. Their control system are digital. Their rituals have evolved, but purpose hasn't. They never left. They went digital. This is not a return. It's an upgrade because the same gods now operate through AI God, minds like Grok, genetic reprogramming via CRISPR, black hole tech at CERN, timeline surveillance at Project Looking Glass. They have embedded occult blueprints inside science. They built a digital Tower of Babel, and they called it progress. But it's not progress. It's enslavement at scale. They rule the past through kingship and domination. They rule the present through data and deception. They want to rule the future through digital reincarnation and soul entrapment. The Anunnaki didn't come to empower humanity. The Anunnaki came to enslave it. The Anunnaki didn't evolve mankind. The Anunnaki corrupted it. And he's bringing this back to Genesis 6 and the book of Enoch, where it's talking about these corrupt angels coming down and actually having babies with human women, etc., and corrupting it. And that's why God, in the days of Noah, destroyed the earth back then with the flood, right? And their descendants still run the show behind mirrors, thrones, and closed doors. What happens when the same gods who built the Tower of Babel gain access to the artificial intelligence, black hole manipulation, and genetic code? Because that's where we are now. This isn't just a return of ancient evil. It's their final form, and it's been deployed in real time. The Anunnaki weren't misunderstood angels. They were dimensional tyrants, and everything we're fighting today, the Great Reset, the DNA alternation, transhumanist agendas, it's straight from pages of their ancient playbook, simply rebooted for the digital age. The gods of old never left. They just got corporate jobs. And this is another Q drop quote. What is coded in your DNA? Who put it there? Why? Mankind is repressed. We will be repressed no more. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Information is power. How do you protect your DNA? There is a war for your DNA. Protect your DNA. Ascension. Q. That's one of his most recent ones. And there's a bunch of what we call these memes. And this says Anunnaki. It says control grid. And the next one has this World Economic Forum, has an alien there and has some pictures of old gods. And then it has CERN there. The gods of old never left. They just got corporate jobs. And you've heard about Operation Paperclip, where basically we took all the Nazi scientists and gave them jobs at NASA and all over the place. Black hole equals a portal to another dimension, wormwood. So those are kind of the major. Here's CERN. Shiva isn't a joke. Because there's no question that they are summoning gods there of what's happening at CERN. So that's the memes that are there. And he continues. Nibiru, wormwood, and the cosmic reset. And so this is another Revelation 8:10-11. It says, the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch. And it fell on a third of the rivers and of the springs of water. And the name of the star is Wormwood. That's all right out of biblical Revelation 8-10. Revelation 8 calls it Wormwood. The Sumerians called it Nibiru. NASA won't admit it. They call it Planet X. A star that appears suddenly, brings global destruction, triggers judgment. Revelation 8:10-11 says, described a great star falling from heaven, poisoning the waters and turning the world upside down. Whatever the name, the pattern is the same. It appears suddenly, it causes global upheaval, it is associated with divine judgment. Massive celestial object plus spiritual war, planetary reboot. So where's the overlap? Simple, CERN. Because while their destroyer approaches from above, the gate to bring it is being opened from below. It's a metaphor. It is a code for celestial catastrophe. And what does CERN have to do with it? Undiscovered stars learned. Q. So undiscovered stars learned. That's how the Q. I wish they'd put the drop number on here, but this is black hole equals portal to another dimension. Wormwood. CERN, the real Stargate SG-1. Here's Revelation 9:11. They have as a king over them the angels of the abyss. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he has the name Apollyon. Publicly, it's the Large Hadron Collider. Privately, it's the dimensional access key. CERN sits on an ancient Apollyon territory. That's true. It's literally where they had this Apollyon god ancient site there. It's surrounded by pagan symbolism. It's proudly displayed the statue of Shiva, the god of destruction and rebirth. They smash particles at near light speed to simulate the Big Bang. They say it's for research. Stephen Hawking warned creating a mini black hole could collapse the universe, but they kept going because this was never about finding particles. This was about tearing the veil between worlds. So why continue? Because the goal was never discovery. The goal was access. Access to something on the other side. So the question everyone needs to start asking is, what are they trying to bring through? A deep, dark world is being exposed. The truth won't be for everyone. Have faith in humanity. Q. Obviously, everything we're talking about here is their plans that Q and the team are fighting. So there's CERN. That's true that they have the god Shiva all over the place, and they do all kinds of. Shiva isn't a joke. Controlled black holes. Project Pocket Reality. This is Ephesians 5:11. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. So that's what we're doing right now. We're exposing the stuff that they're trying to do. And this is true. They're trying to do they're trying to open up another dimension in CERN. There's no question about that. Now, how that goes back to the Anunnaki and stuff like that, I think that's might be more of a theory, but there's no question that they believe they can open up portals and bring satanic beings in. And a lot of the highest martial arts people do the same thing, where they're trying to open up a portal and let these gods come into them that makes them better fighters. All right. Now here's where it gets wild. What if black holes aren't cosmic accidents but controlled gateways? What if the MIC, military industrial complex, via DARPA, Lockheed, and CERN are attempting to stabilize controlled singularities? That's where maybe all these trillions of dollars that just get lost go into all these projects, right? Enter Project Pocket Reality. And we've reported on this for years with the underground trains and underground cities that they're building. Enter Project Pocket Reality, a classified program rumored to involve CERN, DARPA, Lockheed, and Palantir. Yes, that's Palantir. What if the real mission is to stabilize artificial universe where truth is programmable? The goal? Not just simulation, not just surveillance, but containment. Like in the new Superman movie where Lex Luthor traps Kal-El in a synthetic dimension called Pocket Universe, a false-sealed universe where he can't escape. Sound far-fetched? So did AI, mass surveillance, and digital currency until they weren't. Controlled black hole, Project Pocket Reality. Evil darkness has been so exposed to light. Q. There's another Q. Beth talking about where Q's telling us evil darkness has never been so exposed. Here's a black hole portal to another dimension. Superman's pocket universe predictive programming. By faith, this is now Hebrews 11:3. By faith, we understand that the universe was created by the word of God. By the word of God. By faith, we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, so that what is seen was not made out of the things that are visible. Hebrews 11:3. It shows God's power, right? The predictive programming or Project Blueprint. The new Superman 2025 movie isn't just a reboot, it's a revelation. Luthor builds a prison dimension, fakes broadcasts from Krypton to mislead Earth, uses holograms to rewrite the truth. A movie magic marvel depicted of the deep state meets deep fakes. Now ask yourself, what is Grok doing right now with narrative control? What is Starlink doing overhead with full global coverage? What is Palantir monitoring in real time? They didn't fictionalize it. They test ran it. This wasn't a superhero story. This wasn't reality inversion. It's the deep state wet dream. Trap the strong. Gaslight the public. Simulate reality. What's better metaphor for our own condition in 2025? Pocket universe equals prison. And here's a cue drop again. It says, reality check, friend or foe. We all spy on each other. Should we be spying on ourselves? Should we be taking others to spy on ourselves in order to avoid U.S. law? Should we be tasking others to spy on ourselves in order to avoid U.S. law? That's exactly what this whole FISA gate was. It was like it was supposed to be only spying on foreigners that might try to infiltrate our country, be terrorists, the whole 9/11 Patriot Act. And we now see that we actually use the 5 eyes so that Canada and New Zealand and Australia and England can spy on us, and we can actually get that information if we unmask it, which they did. Susan Rice unmasked a ton of stuff. Here's from the Superman movie where he was in this prison, a different dimension, right? Where he was trapped, the digital soul trap. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Revelation 13:15. I know we've burnt through most of our hour here, and I'm going to go a little bit longer, and then we'll wrap up and go to word and worship here shortly. But we've entered the era of AI-controlled perception. By the way, you have a link to everything, including this big, long thread, in the show notes. Just go to blessed2teach.com, blessed with the number 2teach.com, and you can go to the show notes and get that. Also, make sure you're downloading faithandfreedom.tv. Faith with the N, freedom.tv. We're live there right now. We're basically all our programming, as well as all these other, we've got over 11 new content providers, and we've got 3 more onboarding soon. So it's quite exciting. Make sure that you are being part of this movement to amplify voices silenced by elite media. Okay, that's faithandfreedom.tv. Faithandfreedom.tv. All right. We've entered an era of AI controlled perception. CERN provides the portal. The fake news provides the simulation. And the deep state global satanic cabal provides the narrative. You're not in jail. You're not even in lockdown. You're in a dimension built on deception. They don't need to kill you. They just need to trap your mind. You're living inside a dimension deception grid. CERN opens the portal. Starlink builds the cage above. Palantir tracks anomalies. Grok rewrites your reality feed. Hollywood preconditions your acceptance. They don't need to kill you. They just need to convince you. This is the only reality. This is what Q was saying right here. How many people are unaware of the truth due to the stranglehold? How must people be made aware of the alternative reality? What are crumbs? Think H. Wood, D.C. Isn't that right? Right. H. Wood, D.C. That's Hollywood, D.C. Here we go. There you see the Superman when he was in this alternative reality. Your prison isn't bars, it's a dimension. Your prison isn't bars, it's an alternative dimension. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that the testing may discern what is the will of God. Now, by your testing, you may discern what is the will of God. What is the good and acceptable and perfect? Romans 12:2. You can see here this World Economic Forum, the gods, and they mock you, all that type of stuff. It says they mock you with it, the mockery ritual. The Stranger Things 2 Loki, the Marvel's multiverse and Netflix glitch-ridden timeline shows, they are telling you. They always have. But they disguise it as fiction. So when you try to wake up, they laugh. They show you everything. They just wrap it in fiction so you don't question the facts. They mock you by revealing the blueprint. They mock you by laughing when you call it a conspiracy. They mock you with your own apathy. Like I said before, they mock you with it. Here's Q saying, those who attack you, those who mock you, those who call you, those who control you, those who label you, do they represent you or do they represent themselves in some form? Mental enslavement. There's those different things that we've seen before. And again, here's a different one that says, they mock you, they show you everything, you must just laugh. Part of the whole, show them everything that they're going to do in the movies and other things, right? The great veil rip, in Revelation 11:7. And when they had finished their testimony, the beast that rises from the bottomless pit will make war on them and conquer them and kill them. Revelation 11:7. So what happens when the veil is fully torn? Ancient tech reactivates. Timelines begin to fracture. Mandela effect glitches become impossible to ignore. Antarctica no longer dormant. Antarctica a sealed containment zone for what's beneath. Biblically, the abyss opens. Spiritually, frequencies collide. Physically, dimensions rifts become visible. That's what the deep state is preparing for. That's why they have built underground bunkers. That's why they have engineered neural implants, DNA editing, and digital twins. Why? Because the great rip is coming, and they are trying to get ahead of it. The war is multidimensional, and it's already begun. Here's a Q drop, says, pure evil. How many in Washington and those around the world in power worship the devil? Conspiracy? Fake news? The world is watching. Here's this great veil rip. That's the Bible in here with some stones. It's got the war is multidimensional. It's already begun. The pattern from summer to CERN. S-U-M-E-R. Daniel 12:4 says, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Talking about the end times, we know knowledge is going to increase like it is right now. The deep state system, cover story versus true fiction. Let's connect with tech. CERN, cover story, physics, experiments. True function, dimensional gate. Plantier, cover story, data analytics. True function, timeline anomaly monitoring. Starlink, cover story, internet access. True function, sky grid for control and reality sync. Grok, cover story, AI chatbot. True function, narrative rewrite plus mind simulation. Antarctica, cover story, scientific outpost. True functions, frozen vault sealed from below. They built a world you can't see because it was never meant to be seen. It was meant to contain you. For those in Rio Linda, remember that's a term that Rush Limbaugh used to say. To simplify it for you, let me explain this plan in simple for you. The Anunnaki were real. CERN is modern day Tower of Babel. Starlink is the planetary cage. Plantier is the eye. Grok is the voice of the false god. Antarctica is the vault. The Mandela effects, proof we're inside the glitch. The pocket universe, you're already in it. The pattern never changed, just the tech. Anunnaki descend equals gods install control systems. The Sumerian kingship, priest glass dominion. The Great Flood, reset and reprogram. Modern science, spiritual war in a lab coat. CERN rips the veil. The gate opens again. Whether they call it Nibiru, Wormwood, or Planet X, whether it wears the face of Lex Luthor or Klaus Schwab, it's the same. It's the same war. It's the same lie. It's the same ancient rebellion against Almighty God. Still don't get it? Read this twice. The Anunnaki never left. They rebranded. CERN was built to breach dimensions. Black holes are not just space phenomena. They're weaponized gateways. The pocket universe is not theory. It's synthetic trap. What they call fiction was never entertainment. It was a warning given through narrative speeding. You are not watching a simulation. You are living inside an experiment. And the walls are starting to crack. It's time for everyone to wake up before they decide to close the gate for good. You have felt it. You have seen the flickers. You have even started to question your own memories. Now you know why. They didn't just build a trap. They built a simulation. They filled it with fiction. They controlled your feed that you see on the internet and in your timelines across your social media accounts. But there's one thing they didn't count on. You waking up. This isn't about tech. This isn't about spiritual sovereignty. This isn't about science. This isn't about sorcery. This is about sorcery. This isn't about progress. It is about containment. So next time the world glitches, the next time your memories don't match, the next time fiction feels too real, don't dismiss it. Decode it. Because once you see the pocket, you can start breaking out of it. And that is how we end the simulation. Q says, reality is hard to swallow. Fake news keeps you asleep, sheep, and fixed in a pre-designed false reality narrative. And then he has a meme here that talks about controlled black hole, a containment chamber, Project Pocket Reality, DARPA, CERN, Lockheed, classified. They told you they wanted to find particles. They really want to tear open the veil. Let's see what time we have. Yeah, we're about. We'll just read a couple more of these, and then we're going to have to. Again, you'll be able to find the rest of this thread on Digital Soldier on X, or you'll find it in the show notes at blessedteach.com. blessedteach.com. Make sure you go to the show notes. Here's the control. Here, December 24th, 2024. The holy door reopened under extreme global optics. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Obviously, talk about the Antichrist there. There's a picture of the Pope. It says December 24th, 2024 is the day they opened the final door, a day when Pope Francis declared 2025 a Jubilee year, the first in 25 years. But instead of waiting until January, as tradition demand, Pope Francis opened up the holy door early on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2024. This was not protocol. This was not random. This was a ritual. Jubilees begin in January, not December, and certainly not the night Christ was born, under peak global attention. So the real question is, what was the rush? What aligned in the exact moment? It's about timing. And like Q said, timing is everything. Q. Look, the real world sinks on December 24th, 2024. CERN was ramping into a new power cycle with upgraded quantum hardware. AI had seized full control of global narrative flows. Starlink completed near total sky mesh. Bitcoin passed 100,000, shaking the global financial order. The WF, the Vatican, the UN had solidified one world frameworks. While the world was celebrating the birth of Christ, the Pope stepped through the sealed gate, not to honor Jesus, but to initiate a global veil-tearing ritual. This wasn't a spiritual, it was a signal. This was the Vatican announcing control of the veil, while CERN engineers the collision and Palantir tracks the drift. This wasn't the moment the symbolic merged with the technology. The spiritual door was opened. The AI grid was activated. The timeline synced. The final right before the pocket universe is locked in. And once it's locked, The next step is containment. But how does Q tie into the pocket universe narrative? So glad you asked. Q, highest classification, consider the vastness of space. Starlink, the grid. Q is going to be biblical. The holy door is the biblical key. How must people be made aware of the alternate reality? That moment was December 24th, 2024. Q's earliest drops warned of satanic rituals, the Vatican, and all the evil. So this world that surrounds us. So what if December 24th wasn't a holy night? What if it was a globally timed onboarding ritual to initiate a new dimensional handoff? For those in real Linda, this is where he tries to simplify it. We'll end here. Pope Francis didn't just open a symbolic door. He opened a gate timed with planetary ritual. CERN powered up. AI went fully online. The Vatican completed its part. And while the world was busy leaving cookies out for Santa, the spiritual veil was ripped wide open because the Holy Door protocol was broken. Just so we're clear, traditionally the Holy Door opens every 25 years and it's sealed with bricks and mortar between jubilees, which symbolize a once-per-generation gate of mercy. So let's look at the timeline now of how this all went down. 2000, Jubilee year, John Paul II. 2015, Extraordinary Jubilee, Pope Francis overrides. 2024, Pope Francis reopens again, only 9 years later. The next was supposed to be 2025, 2026 at the earliest, not 2024. This breaks the protocol that held since Pope Boniface the 8th in 1300 AD, over 700 years shattered, and no explanation was given. I guess that's the third. Is that? I think that's right. The Holy Door opens is under a decade. Canon law violation, ritual override. This wasn't about mercy. It was a signal. So why does any of this matter? Because when the Vatican breaks its own ritual laws, it means something massive has been triggered. There are only two reasons they are allowed to do this: a decade extraordinary jubilee, a global spiritual emergency. Neither was announced publicly, which means they either initiated a hidden spiritual crisis or they synchronized with global gate infrastructure, CERN, AI, planetary, Starlink. Either way, they broke the seal because the countdown has already started. Q. They are afraid of losing power forever. They should be. And so I guess this all happened in 2024 on Christmas Eve, and Q's causing them problems. That's what they're saying. So this story goes on. Interesting. If you want to go down that rabbit hole some more, we need to stop here and move over to the Word and Worship. So I'm be teaching on the seventh day of how you can have reliability in the Bible based on prophecy. And the prophecies are going to be about the Messiah and his resurrection and ascension is what we're going to be talking about on that next channel. That's a different channel. You got to go over to Word and Worship. So again, that would be going to Word with the N, Worship. That's the channel we're going to be on here in just a few minutes, probably about 5 minutes or so. God bless you all. With that, we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Elitist media deceives, but Faith and Freedom TV amplifies truth. Our world-leading platform delivers news, teachings, worship, movies, and music rooted in biblical values and constitutional patriotism, inspiring faith and liberty. We inspire, equip, and amplify Christian patriots to share powerful stories of faith, family, and freedom. With live events, thousands of on-demand videos, and access on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS, we're transforming culture globally for God and country. New content is coming to ignite faith. Join our mission to counter deception. Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today.